Come on in, Jesse Weber, NewsNation legal contributor, Law and Crime Network host. Jesse, the trial begins on Monday. First off, real quick, what do we expect Monday?
First, let me just say, is Scott Bolden the best-dressed man in all of media? I was even shocked. I needed to step back. I have to tell him. Now, putting that aside, as great as he looks, let's talk about Monday. Monday is a huge day. It's jury selection, which I think is going to be quite the task, right? So we know that possibly hundreds of prospective jurors will be called in. There's a list of 42 questions that they'll be asked. And it's really not going to say, what is your political affiliation? Who did you vote for? But what are your feelings about a president being prosecuted? What do you feel about Donald Trump being prosecuted? What do you feel about, are you ever part of QAnon? Were you ever part of the Proud Boys? And narrowing that down, trying to find a fair and impartial jury, I think in and of itself will be very difficult. But that's day one. That's what we expect on Monday.
Okay. And then at some point, Donald Trump is going to have to make a decision on whether or not he wants to testify. And the former president was asked about that earlier today.
It's a scam. It's a scam. That's not a trial. That's not a trial. That's a scam. They said there's not even a case there. That's election interference by the Biden administration.
He said, yes, I would testify. That was the beginning portion of that. Yes, I would testify. It's not a trial. It's a scam. All right. So that's how he categorizes this, or at least talks about it. But what about the decision? If he actually testifies, Jesse, and if you were his counsel, granted, we haven't heard the case, haven't heard the evidence, but I wonder what you think of that strategy.
I think he definitely wants to. We know there's a danger with the defendant taking the stand, but in this kind of case, it could actually work to his benefit. Why do I say that? One of the elements that prosecutors need to prove is not that he just falsified business records, but that he did it with the criminal intent to cover up another crime, to cover up federal election laws, to cover up tax crimes. And so if you get him on the stand and says, that was not my intention. I didn't want this affair coming out because of me and Melania. I didn't even think about whether the election. I didn't even think about breaking the law. If he can go on the stand and do that, that could be a help for him. But you know, how many times do we cover it?
I know
when the defendant goes on the
Jesse will agree that Donald Trump has a reputation for lying about everything, even when the truth would serve him better. And the prosecution gets a chance to cross-examine him on any number of issues based on all of his public statements that will tear into his credibility. And whether he says he didn't have the criminal intent to do it, the real question is it believable? Does the jury believe him, subject to the cross-examination by the prosecution? That's a tough, balance right there when you decide whether a defendant is going to testify or not.
All right. Jesse Weber, last thought for you? No.
No, I was going to say, this is not a media interview. This is not a public rally. This is a court of law. There are rules by which he can what he can say. There's parameters. And if he opens the door to stuff that he didn't want to come in, that's going to be his own fault, and the prosecutor can question him about it. So it's a big danger. I agree with Scott.
Jesse Weber, NewsNation legal contributor. Thank you, sir. We will talk to you next week. I have no doubt about it. Jesse, thank you. Have a good weekend. Thank you for watching. And make sure you go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.